Hello, and welcome to the third episode of 49 Faithful Lee. I'm your host, Miriah Lee, and with me I have my faithful co-host of the night, Teran. How you doing, TL?
I'm doing good. Had a 10-hour work day, so time to relax and enjoy being on the show with you. So
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
for sure,
Well, let's get into it.
sounds good to
Um,
me.
Recently, we cut down to the final 53. We got most of our practice squad set up. What are your thoughts?
Um, I'm about 98% happy with it. Um, what really kind of bugged me a little bit it was Jonas Griffith getting traded. I really had high hopes for him. I mean, we brought him in last year and he didn't make it. But just seeing him this year, it seems like, he bulked up a little bit, and I feel like with D'Amico Ryans being an excellent linebacker coach, like linebacker player, excuse me, I thought he would be able to develop him into like a stud. So when I saw the news that he had got traded, I was like, well, because I truly believe he's better as a true linebacker than Marcel Harris and also Flanagan Foles. But I mean, I get what they're doing with Harris because, as you know, John Lynch and them, they like drool over versatility. So I think with Harris, since he can play the strong safety spot too, I think he's kept for that reason, just in case there's an injury to your boy Tarto. So
Yeah,
I find
Tartel.
it comedy when you call him that. Yeah. So that's my
Yeah,
thoughts. Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, I'm happy with it. I mean, I know we'll talk about the practice squad here in a bit, but there's somebody like Jared Mayden who I was really hoping would make it. I just I'm a little worried about that safety position, but that's just me, just because of the injury history. So, what about you?
yeah, yeah. I was very surprised to wake up and see that trade. Um, because the same, I thought that was going to be somebody solid that could fit into that linebacker group there. Um, I mean, other than that, there's some, like questionable O line people that we kept, and I'm really upset that we let Webster go.
Mhm.
I thought, he would have been a nice addition to special teams that really needs an uptick.
Mhm.
And then for him to get cleaned off waivers, that I was upset by that.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, other than that, I mean, this team's looking pretty solid. I know some people are upset with the depth and backups, and I think that we're the only team that worries about backups as much as we do.
Mhm.
Like, I don't listen to any other teams that are complaining. We don't have, starting cornerbacks behind our starting quarterbacks. And, like, I think we have a lot of depth for, you know, compared to a lot of teams in the NFL.
For sure.
So, I mean, this team is like stacked from top to bottom, special teams, practice squad. I mean, it's crazy how stacked this team is.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with it. I want to say they said the 49ers had the most players claimed off waivers too. So it just
Yeah.
goes to show you, the depth that we had on this team. And as far as the O line, I think I know who you're talking about. I think majority of the fan base is kind of shocked about Tom Compton making this team, especially because I feel like Kyle and John are pretty loyal to their draft picks. So I was pretty surprised they let go of Colton McKivitz, to not make the final 53. So he must have been real trash for him
Yeah.
not to make that final cut for them to keep Tom Compton. So yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, but I'm pretty happy though. I think when it comes down to it, I think we did the right thing by keeping 11 defensive linemen because I feel like with that rotation, you keep your guys fresh. You keep, I mean, you can literally keep out, somebody like Javon Kinlaw for two consecutive series to get him some rest and put in somebody like a DJ Jones or Eric Armstead, whatever you want to. You can interchange a lot of pieces, Contavia Street, and I feel like obviously that D line is going to be the strength of our team, and it'll obviously make hard because they won't have as much time to be chasing around receivers. So
Yeah, that D line is. Ooh, I'm so excited to see that D line. I'm sure that most of those players that we kept on that D line could be starters on a lot of other teams in this league.
oh, most
And they're
definitely.
depth pieces for us. That's how good those players are, and how Chris gets those. He gets those guys working, and he has that D line just like animals. You know, they're crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited. Like, 2019 D-line was good, but I'm really excited to see what this D-line does.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I think Chris Kacerek deserves a lot of credit. I mean, what does it do? I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was a guy that went to Seattle in the offseason. The guy, the D lineman we had. Oh, Kerry Hyder.
Kerry Hyder, yeah.
So Hyder, he should be giving Kacerek like 10% of his check because he got that man paid in the offseason. He was a serviceable piece. I think he was in Dallas, but he comes to the 49ers and gets 8.5 sacks. I mean, that's pretty impressive for a guy that, just come off the street. So, I feel like, and, it's funny, I put some on Twitter the other day, nobody really agreed with, but it's like, I think how I feel about Eric Armstead. Like, he's good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the years he's been here, he's only really played well when he was in a contract year.
Yeah.
And that bothers me when players do that. Like, he was always injured and all of a sudden he's healthy in a contract year, and then he doesn't really thrive unless he has good bookends on the side of him. In 2019, when he went to the Super Bowl, when he had a healthy Ford and a healthy Nick Bosa, that's when he did his damage. But then you look at somebody like DeForest Buckner. Before that, he was dominant before he had any help. He had people like Cassius Marsh lining up next to him, and he was still doing his thing. So, somebody like Eric Armstead, like, he's good. And he's a 49er, so I'll never, really talk bad about him. But I feel like with this D-line depth, he can easily be moved for a second and we'd be okay, in my opinion. Because I don't feel like he offers any much more improvement than the guys we already have, and in my opinion. So I feel like if somebody come calling and say, hey, I'll give you a second rounder for Armstead, I'm taking it. Because we don't have a first next year, and if we can end up with 2 firsts, I'm okay with that. So,
yeah, I definitely don't think there's a huge drop off between Armstead and the next, whoever's next in line from there.
I don't either. So, yeah. So, yes, that's my thoughts. Yeah, I'm pretty excited as far as, the receivers. I think the only thing, I like our starters. I think Ayuk and Debo are amazing. I think, if they're healthy, we're good. I just worry about if one of them goes down, who's going to step in. Sherfield has showed us a lot. I mean, in training camp, he's been dominant. He looks like it looks like he made improvements coming from Arizona. I mean, I don't know if they just didn't use him right, or maybe he just, some people come into their own a little bit later.
Yeah.
So maybe him just being in the league for 4 years, now he's comfortable. Now he understands, like, okay, I mean, he's coming to an offense where it's dynamic, and Kyle Shanahan's such a genius where he can scheme people open. So maybe that's why Sherfield has taken that step, into being what he is. But I mean, I know we've seen minimal from him, but what I've seen has been a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. Debo with the nagging hamstring injuries kind of bothers me a little bit because he tends to miss games every now and then. But I think if we're looking at our receiver, core, with obviously with George Kittle coming off and a healthy Debo and Ayuk, I think we're fine. But it's just that one injury is going to scare me because, if you're going to have to depend on somebody like a Mohamed Sanu or somebody, that might worry me. However, we do like to run the ball. So,
yeah, I think Sherfield was a nice surprise. And he's the type of player I love, the type of player that, another team, didn't pick him back up when he thought they would. He has a chip on his shoulder. He has something to prove. He was just used as a special teams player there, and he wants to show that, I'm more than that. Mm-hmm. This team let me go. And, I think it was a thing that, he was stuck behind, Larry Fitzgerald. He was stuck behind big names over there, and he didn't get a chance to even show what he could do, Now he comes over here, and, I don't know how that connection between Jimmy and him is going to be, but there's definitely a connection between Lance and Sherfield. That's obvious.
For sure. And I think you make an excellent point. I mean, even though Fitzgerald's a little, one of the older receivers, but he's still like a player coach. So Sherfield playing behind him and then playing behind DeAndre Hopkins for a year, that I'm sure that helped his growth in being a receiver that he potentially could be. And I know, we're a pretty smart organization. So if I still if it comes like week 9, week 10, because I only signed up for a 1-year deal. If it comes like week 9, week 10, and he's like showing he's been a beast, you need to extend that guy.
Yeah.
And don't even give him the opportunity to hit free agency or give him the opportunity to get like a huge payday, because you could probably get him for a decent bargain if you sign him in the midseason, like maybe like on a 3-year deal or something. Because he's only what, like 26. He's still kind of pretty young.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's still fairly young. So that's something I would do. But yeah, so yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
he said that Larry was, that he learned a lot from Larry on just how to be a professional and take care of his body, and do all the things right. So, that's good now that he's in there too, to, him and Sanu to help, make sure that everybody in that room's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And maybe that can cut back on some injuries a little.
Yeah, that throw, when we're watching the Raider game, that throw that Jimmy made to him on the sideline was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, so maybe the connection will be pretty good. So, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I just can't wait for week 1. I'm so excited. I feel like a kid at Toys R Us right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just can't wait. So
I know I've never been so excited during a preseason. Like, I've never watched every preseason game, like, gone back and watched it. Like, it's normally like, okay, preseason, I'll watch it, check out what happened, and that's that. But I didn't want to even miss a minute of what was going on this year,
Absolutely. I've been,
so
and it's
hopefully
fun.
it's exciting.
Funny. Yeah, it's funny because I never record preseason games, but I recorded that last one. And I've been doing the same, kind of going back and looking like what went wrong, what did I like, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm the same way.
All right, let's get into the cherry on top that everybody wants to talk about. The quarterbacks. It looked like this week we had a little bit of a 2-quarterback system going on. You never know with our coach what's really going to happen come week 1, but for now, what are your thoughts on the 2-quarterback system? What are your thoughts of the quarterbacks overall? How do you feel about the whole competition and what's going
on? So I heard you speak on it on your first episode with Melissa, and I think you're totally right when it comes to the situation. So I think the only thing that Jimmy has on Trey is probably poise and experience. Other than that, I don't see much of a drop-off in starting quarterbacks. It's kind of hard to say because I haven't seen Trey with the ones much. And I know you and I, before the draft even, you, I, Breezy, couple people were really high on Trey Lance. Matter of fact, you and I even made bets at the sports book to say he was going to be our quarterback, and we were correct just because we felt like he fit the mold. So I can honestly say if we didn't have a Super Bowl roster, Trey would probably be starting. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. I think, I don't know. And I know Kyle is known to be like a stubborn type guy, but at the same time, I really do feel like, he's kind of feeling it this year of like, man, I need to win. I feel like he has a win. And I think a lot of the vets, like the George Kittles and stuff, are probably in his ear like, hey, you know what? Even though I know you're high on Trey Lance, but Jimmy did take us to a Super Bowl. And I feel like, our best chance of winning right now is probably Jimmy, but I feel like Jimmy will be on a short leash.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
I still feel the same. I'm going to back Jimmy because he's on our team. That's who we roll out with as quarterback 1, week 1. I'm going to support him, of course, because at the end of the day, I'm a 49ers fan.
Sure.
It doesn't change how I feel about him. And even after, Trey's up and down play and, the coach throwing him out there in situations that didn't make him look like his best, I don't think anything different. I think he can easily be put in the system and the coach can draw up plays that fit his style, that knows how to run, not things that he's bad at like he did in the preseason. And I think he can run this offense. The fact that we do have all those playmakers around him makes it that much better. Mm-hmm. I think with the skills that he has, the ability he has, I think that if Jimmy can do it, he can do it at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree. And what I feel like he's, so let's keep it a buck here. The dude didn't play for a whole year. He didn't play a meaningful game for a year. And the way he's looked to me for not playing a meaningful game in a year has been amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit here and knock him and be like, oh, I feel like he's being nitpicked like to no end. And I feel like, and I feel like a lot of it too are the Justin Fields fanboys and girls because they're like, oh,
Mhm.
see, we should have picked Fields. We should have picked Fields. But I'm like, you got to remember, Trey is a year younger or more than any other quarterback in this draft class as far as like the first rounders. He's just turned 21 in May. Mac Jones is about to be 23. Trevor Lawrence started for 3 years. He's still older. I mean, all of them are older than Trey, and Trey didn't play for a year. And I feel like, to me, he still looks like he's pretty good. Like, I feel like there hasn't been too much of a drop off. So,
Yeah.
I feel like these 49er fans, we need to be patient and understand, like, he'll play when he's ready. So the two quarterback system, I feel like getting his feet wet. Because I really feel like Kyle wants him to play bad.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the playbook is limited with Jimmy because of that deep ball.
Mhm.
And his legs. I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't have the legs of Trey. I mean, he said he wanted to play 11 on 11 football, and Trey gives you that ability. And, and I feel like we really haven't seen. Everybody always says 49ers don't have a deep threat. I think we do on Ayuk. I think Ayuk can beat people deep. It's just Jimmy
Mhm.
don't have the arm strength to give him the ball.
Yeah.
So I feel like with Trey, he opens up that playbook that much more, especially because you have to spy on him in every play because he can take off on you at any time. So I don't know. I'm excited about Trey. I'm kind of bummed out he hurt his finger. So I really, I think they're kind of sugarcoating how long of an injury, how long he's going to be injured. Because I don't think he sees any snap on week 1. But that's just me. I think they're just going to, let him sit there and heal. But I feel like he'll be implemented come week 2 versus the Eagles.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on the situation. So what about you?
Yeah, I agree that coach did want Trey to start. That it was Trey's job to go in there and take, and he didn't do that. Um, but I mean, like you said, that's to be expected. The kid hasn't played in how long, and it's funny that how long was that an excuse for Jimmy, that he hadn't played, that he'd only been in the system for this long, and he had been hurt, and he hasn't played football in how many this many games, and yada yada yada. But now that it's Trey, let's nitpick him, and
It really is.
it's like none of the same excuses, work for both of them,
No, I
which is kind
agree.
of crazy. It's
Yeah, I
also
saw.
kind of crazy to me that people will talk so bad about Trey when it's like, even if you're a Jimmy fan, you do realize that Trey is the future regardless. Like, Trey's going to be the quarterback regardless what happens in the future. So, like, why would you talk bad about him or, like, wish injury on him or, like, wish bad against the kid when that's going to be the starting quarterback and hopefully franchise quarterback of your team for many years to come?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And don't get me wrong. I think week 1, even without the injury, Jimmy probably is the right person to start. Just to. But at the same time, I do feel like I really hope he's getting that fair shake where he's practicing with the ones more, because you're not going to get chemistry unless you're practicing with the ones. So it's like he's sitting here and he's throwing the shirt, Field and Sanu and stuff, which is all good. But I really truly believe that if he starts getting more reps with Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, all of them, the timing and the chemistry will come. And I'm sick of the excuses of the I agree with most too. I feel like it's a business decision. I feel like Kyle is really trying to put him in, so a quarterback desperate team that has an injury in the future can come calling, "Hey, Jimmy still looks good. Let me give up a draft pick for him," and then it's like, okay, cool, and then you have Trey starting. But it's been all over Twitter, and a couple of people have been talking about it on their podcast. But I watched tape from Lance when he was at North Dakota State, and I'm looking at it now, and then there's no difference in the way he's throwing his football. So this excuse of he needs to take some heat off his throws is some foolishness. You got
Yeah.
you got people like me catching footballs from him and D2 catching them, and I'm not Annabelle caliber, not even close, and they're catching the football. So I don't want to hear take some heat off his throws, because you look at people like Brett Favre, John Elway back in the day that used to throw the ball, and you even got Hall of Famers sticking up for Trey.
Yeah.
Randy Moss, like, I don't care how hard it's throwing the ball, catch the ball.
Yeah, that's your job, to catch the ball.
Exactly.
Yeah. Melissa asked you if you want to go ahead and take a look at this. Teran, thoughts on the breakdown of Trey's with Mostert's run for 19 yards and how it would be a touchdown run for Trey if he was allowed to keep the ball?
Well, I mean, that's a good assumption. Maybe Trey maybe would have kept the ball if he could have scored, but I like it. I mean, I think that's just example of what this run game is going to look like. And I think Kyle has kept his play calling very vanilla. But I see Trey running all over the field, like and he's smart. He makes pretty quick decisions. So I feel like if he's not going to be that type that's going to be panicking. If he doesn't see an opening, he's going to run the ball. So and then he's going to show people very soon his ability, and they're not going to be able to crowd the box and stuff like that. So I just can't wait until he's implemented on a regular basis and we can see that run game and passing game take off. So.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that people think, oh, he's not running. He's scared to run. He can't make a fast enough decision whether to throw or run. It's like, don't you think there's a reason he's not running? Mm-hmm. Like, we've seen that he knows when to run. We've seen that he prefers to throw. But, I mean, if he can see a route to run and there's nothing else, he's going to run.
Exactly.
I don't understand how people are thinking like these preseason games is like, that was Trey Lance, that's what we've been waiting for. It's like, that was like as vanilla as it could possibly be.
For sure.
They weren't trying to get him hurt, even though he ended up hurt.
Yeah.
And I know you spoke on that, and that's just kind of a crazy thing to me. That first it was he jammed his finger on the helmet, and then he played after that. Mm-hmm. The rest of the game, the rest of the time that he was in. And then he has a chip of a bone in his finger, but it's only going to be 7-day heal time. Like, that's a weird amount of time to put on something.
Yeah. That's very strange. Yeah.
And then they're saying that he was out there in a cast today. It's like.
Yeah. I seen a little clip of him, Jimmy, and Sudfeld walking on the field, and he had like a little cast that was wrapped around, the throwing finger, the pointer, and then he had something else wrapped around his other finger. So you can definitely see the cast on his hand. So I'm thinking that's probably why he got pulled in the third quarter, because I was like kind of upset, like, man, he needs to play this whole third quarter, like give this man some reps. So it explains why he was pulled. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, I really think that Kyle told him, like, even though you see an opportunity to run, just stay put. I want to see more how you throw in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? So I really do believe, Kyle told him, like, no, stay put. I don't want you running and getting hit. And, because, I mean, let's be real here. Like, when people in the preseason half of them know their job's in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to go out there and prove a point. You see how the guy smacked Justin Fields.
Yeah.
So they're like, they're looking at it like, man, this is my only opportunity to show that I'm a hitter. I need to show that I'm going to go out here and make plays. They don't care about your future. They're looking at their own.
It depends on if they have food on the dinner for their kids or not.
Exactly.
They're not worried about you.
Yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah, like if I'm trying to make a 53-man and I know, and these players know, they're not dumb. These players know when they're on the bubble. So they're just like, oh, I'm a third stringer. I'm trying to make a name for myself. Even if this team doesn't sign me, somebody else is looking at me. So they're going to go out there and do what they need to do to try to make a roster. So, I mean, it's smart for Trey not to be running and stuff like that. So I agree with it. But as you mentioned, and you and I mentioned, it's like it was very vanilla, and I really think that, we haven't seen, even with Jimmy, even the 2019 season, I don't even think we've seen probably seen 25%. I mean, I want to say only 75% to 80% of Kyle's playbook has been unleashed, because there's probably like 20% of his plays in that playbook that Jimmy can't make.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so like I said, you can do a full unleash of like, okay, now Trey's my starter. Now I'm going to go ahead and implement this whole playbook, because you see how good that offense was. And I know we don't have a Julio Jones. You see what he did with Atlanta. That offense was unstoppable because he had a quarterback who can make every throw.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited to see, the kind of plays that he's going to draw up. The stuff that he already draws up is crazy.
Yeah.
Now to add a running quarterback to the mix, and how John Lynch said that he was already drawing up plays, for Lance as they were leaving Fields pro day and stuff, So this is something Kyle has been wanting, and then to go back to, playing Lance, sprinkled in. Whether he plays the first week or not, I think that is the whole idea, to bring him in and get him reps, and once he gets more comfortable and the players around him then can see, yeah, this kid knows what he's doing and can kind of, support him a little bit more.
Yeah.
And, and he takes the job,
Yeah.
I think that's the only way now is to get him in there. He has to get reps. Sitting him on the bench for the whole season or until whenever is not going to help him at all.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta go through your bumps and bruises, and I know our time frame of winning the Super Bowl is kind of limited because once again next year we're on so many 1-year contracts with Verrett and all these other people, so I think Kyle does understand like I want to win now, so like Mo said, I really do think it's two things. I really think like Kyle's sitting here like, well, I do have a Super Bowl, I do want to win a World Super Bowl. I was just there 2 years ago. This is my same quarterback. But at the same time, too, he's sitting back like it's a business. I really need to showcase Jimmy a little bit because I don't want to miss out on this $27 million I'm paying him. So if I can get I mean, at this point, I mean, even if you can get a late second, early third for Jimmy, I think it's a win. Just because of the simple fact, like before we drafted Trey, he had no trade value. Yeah. Like everybody was just like, oh, he's always hurt. Everybody had this, think of Jimmy, he's always hurt. So nobody was willing to give a first or second day pick for him. And so that's why they held on to him. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
If we do end up trading him, before the trade deadline, what do you think we do about backup?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there. Did Joe Flacco get cut, or is he still on the team? Because they brought him in. They brought him in before, remember? So I don't know. I mean, that would be an issue. I think Kyle will worry about that later. I think it'll come down to the point, like if it's week 7 and we're sitting there at 2-4, or wherever the case may be, then it's like, man, then I think if Jimmy is the quarterback, I think his trade value will go downhill again because they say, oh, they have a Super Bowl roster. Your record's 2-4, and then I think he'll just trade. I mean, I think he'll keep Jimmy just as a backup, and then hopefully he can get whatever he can get, come off season. But I don't know. Sitting a $27 million quarterback on the bench is pretty tough. I mean, it's like having your vice presidents sitting in the office not doing anything while everybody else is doing the work where they're getting paid $100,000 a year or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's one of those things. So I understand it from a business standpoint. So I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting though.
Yeah, sorry about that, chat. I blocked him. I don't know who that was or what that was about. I apologize.
So yeah, first time on the show. What's up from Fresno, California? That's funny.
What's up, Moses?
How'd you know I was from Fresno? Did I mention that previously? Yeah. So what are your thoughts on like the practice squad and stuff?
I mean, I'm good with it. I think that we like with the I love that they kept the practice squad the way it was last year, that we could have, the vets on there and everything. I do wish the one thing, the person that I wish that I guess we could have kept and maybe got at least to the practice squad was Haha. Mm-hmm. But I mean, other than that, I'm happy with, pretty much everything. Like there's not one area where I'm like, oh, I'm so concerned here. Cornerback would be the thing. But I mean, other than that, I think the 53 and the practice squad is good.
Yeah, same here. And I know they were saying like now you can keep up to 16 people because of COVID and stuff like that. Because it used to be like 8 or 9 people you can keep on the practice squad, but they obviously they raised it to 16, and there's two people they said you can keep on a weekly basis that's protected that no other team can take. Yeah. So, I would like to keep protection on Colton McKivitz just because I'm scared, we have injuries on that offensive line, and I'm really disappointed in Banks. I mean, I know he got hurt and stuff, but, for a second round pick, I wish they would have showed him some more stuff, but, and I don't know what your thoughts is on this. So, we got Banks. And from what I hear is, they asked him to lose like 10 or 15 pounds because he's a big guy. He's like 330 something. And I'm just, I sit back and I think like even this, this regime and the regime before, I don't know why they love to like change people's weight. So do
Yeah.
you remember? You remember when we had Tank Carradine, right? When he
Yep.
was here, he was a 6'4", 255 pound guy who dominated at Florida State. Put his hand in the ground, and then they get him, and they're like, okay, I want you to get up to 290 and try to play, defensive end in a 3-4. That's not his game.
Yep.
So with Banks, having to make him lose weight, I think is a mistake, because that's probably
Yeah.
why he's been struggling. I mean, he mauled people and dominated at 330 pounds. Now you're trying to ask him to get to 315. And I know it's not a lot of weight at that size, but at the same time, it's like, leave him what he was. You drafted him for that reason, for what you saw in college. So
Yeah.
don't try to change what he's doing. You know what I mean? So that kind of bothers me. So, but Colton McKivitz, I feel like, like we mentioned earlier, like for him to not make the 53 when we all know that Kyle and John, really love their draft picks. Like I feel like, their draft pick get extra treatment, as we can see
Yeah.
with Jalen Hurd,
Mhm.
they get extra treatment. So for him to not make it really shows that, he was disappointing, but I would like to still keep him around just because he knows the system. It's a second year in. If we have an injury, we'll be good to go. And I would also like to protect Jared Mayden,
Yep.
because he looked real promising to me. And, yeah, he looks really good. But, Benjamin coming back, I like, just in case, is that something happens with her, he has to miss a game or something. He can step in, obviously, and he adds deep threat capability, with
And
his
he can be a
speed,
returner
and he
as
can be a
well if we
returner.
need.
Yeah. So I kind of like that. And I would like to see them use Ambry Thomas a little bit too as punt returner and kick returner, just because he did it so well at Michigan. And, because he's struggling so much at corner, I think you put him in at, kickoff returner, punt returner, maybe you put a little bit more confidence in his game, where he's like, okay, like he's getting his feet wet. Because, as you know, he took a year off too because of COVID. He didn't play
Yeah.
all last year. So,
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
mhm.
And that's something he did, so he should be comfortable in that role. He did that in college. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to look who else is on there. Gutierrez, the player that we had signed from the international from Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that, they got him now on the practice squad, and he doesn't take up a spot. So I think that he's huge. That guy is like,
Was he like
he's
6'8"?
super tall. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I took a picture of him next to one of the other players, and I was showing my wife, I'm like, look at the size difference. And this is another NFL player,
Yeah.
like he's like two of them.
I
If
think
he
I know what.
gets some NFL training, and actually learns the game, like he could be dangerous,
Yeah.
give him a couple, maybe next year, the year after.
Yeah, no,
I think,
I agree. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think it was like brick by brick. He was standing next to DJ Jones.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
he made DJ Jones look like a regular dude, It's like, man, God, this guy's big. It's funny, like maybe he can maybe, like you said, with some NFL training and stuff like that, maybe a year under his belt, he can be like another Alex Boone, who was kind of the same size, like 6'8", like a bigger guy. And did Gutierrez play more tackle or guard? Do you remember?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because I know I saw him, like in camp and stuff like that, and he looks a little bit slow-footed right now. So I feel like right now he'd probably be better interior, just because he'd have some problems, I feel like, with speed rushers.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't know if we learn some technique and maybe training behind Trent Williams for a year, it could do wonders for his game. So
yeah. What else? Yeah, I know Melissa's the biggest Josh Hokett fan.
I'm a fan too, Melissa. I'm from Fresno State, and he went to Fresno State. I'm from Fresno. He went to Fresno State, so I've been watching him for a while. So I agree with you.
What you were saying about having them when they're making players, lose weight and all this, like I think that's the same thing how I feel with Jimmy Ward. That not necessarily the weight, but like you draft somebody that plays a certain position, and now you want to make him play every other position on the field, whether he can or not. He's not, perfecting one position if you're having him play everywhere. And then everybody wants to try to label him a bust and label him this, and he can't play. And it's like, how long has a guy had to play out of position? You know, like if you're drafting somebody for a certain position at a weight or whatever, you know, like that should be what you're keeping the player at, or draft somebody else for that position, you know, if it's a different position you need. Like I don't
agree.
get that.
No, and too, like, to me, I feel like you don't experiment with first and second rounders. Like, you know what they are. Like Jimmy Ward at Northern Illinois was a ball hawk. Like, you know, he played that single high free safety, had interceptions and stuff. Then you can go like, okay, outside corner, now free safety. Okay, now try a nickel. And it's like, man, let that man do what he does best. And I was irritated with that when it came to Tavarius Moore, too, at Southern Miss. Another one, free safety. They draft him. Oh, I'm going to try you a corner because you run a 4.3 something. Okay, cool. But at the same time, it's like, let him use that 4.3 speed to play single high so we can get turnovers. You know what I mean? Like, so he can be back there and not get beat deep. So I feel like, you know, when you start messing with people like that, and I'm not saying not all people can do it, but you drafted Jimmy Ward as a good point in the first round because of what he did and what you saw him on game tape as a free safety. Okay, let's try him at corner. That doesn't make sense to me, you know? So, and it's funny too, you know, we're speaking of Jimmy Ward, it's like, I told everybody, it's like Jalen Hurd, he's staying on this team. I go, because you remember, you know, when John Lynch and Kyle first got here, they kept signing Ward, and everybody kept saying, why do they keep bringing him back and bringing him back? And they always said, well, because he's talented. I'll take a chance on a guy if he's talented. And obviously we haven't seen what Jalen Hurd can do because he's been hurt, but obviously they see a lot more than we do. So they see something. So that's why he's being kept. He's getting that Jimmy Ward treatment. Like, I'm going to keep him because he's talented and hopefully he can get over these injuries. You know what I mean? So, so that's why I was like, he's staying. Like, people were like, nah, he's going to get cut. He hasn't showed nothing. I go, you watch. I go, you go back to a couple years ago. They all, you know, and they loved versatility because, you know, he also, you know, for his whole life until he went to Baylor, he was a running back.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think the potential was there. So, I know, I really think if he can get his footing and get in better shape, because he looked kind of sluggish, you know, when he was playing against the Raiders. But, you know, even if they, you know, over time, if he's really healthy, and I think we do have something with him. Even right now, if he's just a red zone threat, you know, being 6'5", you know what I mean? So, you know, I understand why they kept him, but I get the frustration why we did, because, you know, people think like, well, you know, we're going to cut somebody good, but I beg to differ. Who else was really as talented as him or as good? Like, are you going to cut him for Craycraft from the 53? Like, who did we really have that you can say like, oh, he took somebody's spot? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Melissa, they did do that with Solly too. Armstead, they've had, you know, play out of position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't get it. So, yeah,
I feel like the fan base is kind of like split, you know, 50-50 with the whole Hurd. You know, some are happy Hurd got signed and some are, you know, upset. And like, I get it, you know, I get it both ways. I was a Hurd supporter, you know, but it's like we're holding on to what? Like, we haven't seen him do anything.
Yeah.
We've seen him make a couple plays in a preseason game 2 years ago. You know, it's like
you're absolutely right. Yep.
He could get in and be the worst wide receiver we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. We don't know. You know, there's nothing on him.
Yeah.
And so it's like we're just holding on to
potential.
A glimmer of hope.
Yep, we're holding on to potential is what I see it as. That's what they're doing. But, you know, if you look at it too, it's like, you know, even if he was a sixth receiver that they kept, who did they cut who you're like, oh man, he should have definitely made the team? I know a lot of people were in on that Simba guy, you know, like, oh, he should have made the team. But it's like, okay, I mean, and he did get picked up quick. I think the Bears swooped him up. But at the same time, it's like we cut, you know, Craycraft, we cut Kevin White, we cut Richie James. Like, can you honestly sit there and say like those dudes would have made more of an impact than him? I don't think so. You know, so our wide receiver room really wasn't the best. I think our top three guys are impressive, but other than that, I mean, you can just pretty much put in whoever you want at this point. And that's no disrespect to Jennings, Hurd or Sanu, but Sanu, you know, he's older, you know, hasn't really showed much in probably 2 and 3 years now. Then you got Hurd, who's hurt. Then you got Jennings, who was hurt last year, who was cut, put on the practice squad. So, you know, after the top three, it's pretty much. Well, actually, I can even say top two because even Sherfield is still an unknown. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So yeah, so I get it, but you're right. It's 50-50 on the fan base, just like I feel like it's 50-50 on the quarterback situation. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking of letting that return guy go, since the coach is keeping it a secret with who's doing like returning punts and kicks, who do you think that's going to be?
I would like to see Ayuk doing it every once in a while because he's dynamic with it, and I get I don't want him to get hurt and stuff like that. But you got to remember, people like, and he's only in his second year. I can get if he was like a Pro Bowl receiver, and so you look at teams like you look at Kansas City. Tyreek Hill returned punts for a long time before he got into that role of like being the main guy. Deshaun Jackson, like there's just a lot of receivers who have been number ones who still return punts. I would like to see him do it, but I really think ultimately it's going to be Elijah Mitchell. I mean, he also is fast, but but people don't understand. You can't just put anybody back there.
Yeah.
Punt return, kick return is an art. Like it's a different animal. Like it's not as easy as people think. You just don't say, "Well, he's fast, put him back there." No, it's like timing of the ball, it's all a judgment call, especially punt return. It's a judgment call. Okay, this guy's 15 yards. Should I fair catch? Should I take off? Like it's a hard job, and it's not that easy as people think. And we haven't had a good returner since Ted Ginn.
And so that's why.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and I honestly thought it was disappointing because I really thought that Dante Pettis was going to be a good kickoff returner because he was so good at it at Washington. But that dude's about as soft as medicated cotton, so that's probably why he didn't pan out. But I mean, I don't know. I think Mitchell will get some looks. Somebody was saying something about Sanu, but I don't know because he's done it before in the past. But I don't know. It's a tough call. But I would like to see the rookies get back there. At least Elijah Mitchell, Ambry Thomas. I would like to see what they have.
Yeah. What those 3 returns, or was it 3 returns that Mitchell had in the last preseason game? That's the most excited I've been during returns, and I can't remember how long.
Yeah,
like I hate that. Our special teams is so bad. It's like you're supposed to be winning 2 of 3. Of those, and we go into a game already down special teams every game.
Oh, you're
it's
right.
Like so, if offense and defense don't play, then we're screwed.
Yeah,
because
you're right.
Special teams ain't playing. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to have somebody back there that's actually trying to return the ball, like return the kick, it's like, wow, somebody can actually run with the ball and not fair catch everything.
Mm-hmm. And even
it's amazing.
Yeah. No, you're right. And even on our defense too, like, Tavarius Moore was probably our best special teamer because, he'd be usually one of the first ones down there. But I feel like we didn't really intimidate anybody since we had the Tony Montana squad. You remember that back in 2012 when, like that squad was nasty. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, but you're right though. You got to win 3 phases of the game. And I feel like 90% of the time we go into a game down that phase. Because most of the time, especially the other team's special teams has an advantage of us just because, they have somebody who can actually kick and return punts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you're right.
And then Mitchell even was down there making tackles, the first play of the game, so I think he's going to be really good on special teams with that speed and.
Yeah.
He never played special teams in college, they said. So just once he learns and gets it all figured out, I think he'll do great.
Yeah, I think, on special teams, as long as you learn how to get off blocks pretty quick, because like you said, the speed is there. He runs a 4.33 or 4.34, whatever it was. But, if he can get off those blocks and get down the field like Tavarius Moore, because Tavarius Moore is great at special teams. He gets down there quick. He's usually the first one making tackles and stuff. But if Mitchell can do that, then I'll be very impressed. Dexter Carter. I think our last good returner was Ted Ginn, not Dexter Carter.
Yeah.
2011. It's been a decade since we've had a great returner. That's sad.
That is sad.
Gosh.
Special teams. Oh man, that has been so bad. So yeah, to get something consistent back there will be great. I'm really glad. I suck that Richie. I mean, I hate that Richie James got hurt, but he needed to go. His time here was, it had to come to an end. This preseason, he was so bad. Like, I can't believe it. And it wasn't even disappointing. It wasn't even just Trey's balls that he was dropping. It's like it was unbelievable. Like, he wasn't even trying. I feel like he was wanting to get cut.
You think so? It's sad. I mean, because this was going to be his third or fourth year. I think his fourth year on the team. Fourth season.
Yeah, I think so.
His knowledge of that playbook should have been better than any other receiver in that offense. Yeah. I mean, of course, he doesn't have the ability of an Ayuk or a Samuel, but I feel like, if he went in there with his head right, honestly, that third receiver spot should have been his. He should have went in there because he did show promise in that Packers game when he had 180 yards and a touchdown. I'm like, okay, so maybe, he'll be better next year, but yeah, he seems like his head wasn't right. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, hopefully he don't have anything going on personal or nothing like that. But he wasn't it. Like, he didn't show that he wanted it at all. He didn't show no hunger at all.
Yeah.
Because that spot seriously should have been his. At least the fourth receiver spot. If he didn't beat out Sherfield, at least say, okay, I'm taking to get that fourth receiver spot. But yeah, he needed to go.
Yeah, even the last couple of years, I know that a lot of us would be like, how come Richie doesn't get used more? Like, what's the deal there? And it was always kind of weird that it seemed like when his number got called, he would do fine,
Yeah.
But on returns, no. Like, it's like they used him in a spot that he didn't do well, and yet didn't use him enough, like at wide receiver, where he could actually do something, So. Yeah. There must have been, I don't know if maybe he was Shanahan's doghouse or
maybe because I feel like he had the perfect prototype for a slot receiver because he is fast. He runs in the low 4.4s. I mean, like what is he like 5'10", about 180? Like he was like the perfect position for a slot receiver, but he just didn't take advantage. Let me ask you this though. I don't know if he got picked up. Would you bring Trent Taylor back to the practice squad?
I wouldn't.
No? Okay.
No. I don't know. I had high hopes for him. Mm-hmm. And then even the last year that he was here, it just like seemed like he had like nothing left. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if he was still trying to play like with little injury or what it was, but it just didn't seem like he had it anymore.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw the last preseason game he was with the Bengals, and it looked like he was back to what he was a few years ago. Like I feel like that back injury was kind of nagging. I hear you, Sin. I just, everybody's saying no. So yeah. I looked at the Bengals game. I was like, man, this guy looks like he's back to where he kind of was. But, and I know, him and Kittle were tight, and, and Kyle used to be really high on that guy. Like, yeah. Everybody thought like it was a reach. Like, oh, when he got drafted in the 5th round, I was like, wow. And then his rookie year, he was good. He looked like he had some promise. Like, he was going to be like another Cole Beasley type receiver, but he just didn't pan out. So,
yeah, and it seemed
I hear you in the chat. No Trent Taylor, I got it.
I heard somebody say something about Pettis today. Is he not on?
Somebody said, somebody said he initially made the 53, but then I think he got cut. I haven't really paid attention to anybody else's rosters, but I did see a receiver who I had some high hopes on a few years ago out of Georgia, Riley Reed. What's his name? Or Riley Ridley. Name. Yeah, Riley Ridley. I think is his name, or I can't remember. But anyway, he's Calvin Ridley's brother.
Okay.
And he showed some promise at Georgia, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be good. And Dante got cut. Like, I thought it was good, and the Bears cut him. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's a guy that maybe we can take a look at and see who he was. But then the Bears cut him and picked up Simba. So I'm like, well, maybe he wasn't as good as I thought. But in college he was really good. So I don't know.
Well, you never know how another, somebody else's team is going to fit with your scheme and
That's
team,
true.
And maybe he just didn't fit what they were looking for at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be it. I mean, and who knows? Some people just need to change the scenery, or maybe he goes somewhere else and he balls out. But I don't know. I think I'm looking at our roster, and and I'm okay. Like you said, we talked about the 53. I'm good with it. I think the only areas of concern I have is, of course, injuries happen with every team, so I'm not, being negative or anything, but I want to see, I'm worried about O-line depth if there's an injury. I'm worried about corner if there's an injury. And then kind of worried about receiver if there's an injury. I think those three positions are the ones I worry about the most if one of the starters go down. Like if Trent Williams goes down, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody like that, or like Jason Verrett, he goes down. Like
that's who I'm the most worried about is Verrett.
Verrett, yeah.
Because then what?
I mean, we got Mosley and Diamador Lenore. I mean, I'm not, he has talent, but can he hang with the Tyler Lockett right now? Can he hang with the Robert Woods? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, or Christian
even
Kirk,
even just the wide receivers, in our conference, in our division, it's like.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Scary.
So those positions are the ones I worry about the most. So, but we'll see. I pray for good health because I feel like our team has been having an injury bug for way too long now. Melissa, I think he's a good backup right now. And who knows? I mean, he could prove me wrong. I mean, only way you know is if he plays. But, I look at our division alone, like Miriah said, you have, the receivers in our division are good. I mean, Arizona has a plethora of receivers, AJ Green, Hopkins. They still got Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk. I mean, and you got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Then you got Robert Woods and who's the other guy Cooper Kupp. Like, we have some hard receivers in our division. So I don't know. I don't know if he'll be able to step up. I mean, I guess it's just like with Lance. You don't know until they get reps. So, but I am worried about corner, like Miriah said, because if somebody like Jason Verrett go down, we're in trouble. But on a good note is our D-line is so stacked. It makes a corner's jobs that much easier. So,
yeah, I think that's plus. That'll be the one thing helping us out if God forbid something does happen to Verrett, that that D-line makes it so easy on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing what they're supposed to do, and I do think that he could step up, but I mean, he's a rookie. There's going to be things that, times that he gets beat, he has to have those, ups and downs. And I don't think he can just step in. He's not a, first round draft pick that can just step in and take over, so I do think in the future, it looks like, and hopefully he can be a solid starting piece for us.
Sure.
I just hope he doesn't have to get thrown in there before he's ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like corner is one of those positions where, like if you lose confidence, it's hard to get that back. I feel like corner and quarterback, like, if a quarterback doesn't have a strong mindset and can't shake off interceptions. I mean, you look at somebody like Peyton Manning, for instance, just to go back in the day. He started day one as a rookie, and he led the league in interceptions that year. He threw tons of picks, but you either have it or you don't. You got to learn how to shake that stuff off. And with corner, I feel like it's the same way. It's like, if you're in there constantly getting beat and you don't have that confidence to be like, okay, you know what, I screwed up. This was a bad game. And then, you need to bounce back. I never forget, I was watching a game. This was years ago. It was Champ Bailey versus Chad Johnson. And Chad Johnson destroyed Champ Bailey. Like 200-something yards, 2 touchdowns. And Champ Bailey's one of the best corners ever. And they asked Champ Bailey, like, man, what happened to you today? And he goes, you know what? That will never happen again. And it didn't. Like, you never saw a receiver dog him out like that again. So, you got to have that confidence. You got to believe in yourself and know, like, you know what? I made a mistake, but I'm going to bounce back. And the next time they throw a ball his way, I'm either going to deflect it or I'm going to pick it off, and he ain't catching it. So, It's that kind of position. Linebacker, I feel like defensive lineman is a little easier to shake off if you miss a tackle, because that happens on a regular. But getting beat deep or just letting the receiver just destroy you will destroy your confidence if you ain't ready.
Yeah, and we've seen that with Witherspoon.
Yeah.
That kid had all the talent in the world. He could have been great, but, his confidence got killed and he never got it back.
That's true. That's very true. So you got to have that dog in you as a corner. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then, like Melissa said, an injured Tart. I don't understand or Hufanga could fill in for them, but I know Hufanga could fill in for Tarto if he has issues.
Oh, for sure. And if depends on, I guess, who we're playing. If we're playing like a running team, they'll probably just throw like Marcel Harris in there to play strong on like the rundowns at least, to if Tart gets injured because because he can play, the hybrid strong safety, weak side linebacker. So he'll probably get some snaps too. And that's why like we mentioned earlier, is probably one of the reasons why he stayed, because of his versatility. But I really like Hufanga, and I think he's ready now, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that kid. Like off the field, he seems like such a great, person. He, so grateful and thankful for everything. Like, just the best, like listening to his press conferences and listening to him talk, like I just smile the whole time. He just seems like such a great person.
Yeah.
And then like to see him get on the field and just, like he's everywhere. Like every time you see somebody making a tackle, he's there.
Yeah.
It's crazy, people were talking about him, because he's so slow and, this and that. And it's like, the kid is not a track star. He never learned to run track. He knows how to be fast on the football field and get from point A to point B and make the tackle, just because he can't run a 40 and whatever, it's like, like, I don't care how fast they can run a 40. They're not running a 40 on the football field,
Exactly.
It's like,
he's
where he needs to be.
You hit the nail on the head, because even with me, like I played football, and I, when I was timed per se, without being chased or whatever the case may be, I'm running like a 4.7, which, was pretty decent in high school. But you get me on that field, I was faster. People were like, man, you're faster than that 4.7 speed that you time, because, he might, because some people, have, like you said, they have track speed or they have game speed. And to me, game speed is way more important, So it don't matter about your speed. Sometimes I remember, like, we want to go back to Ted Ginn, when he came out of Ohio State, Ohio State, he was one of the fastest guys out there, but he never put it together, because even though he had that speed, you never saw him being dominant. Like, he didn't have like 150, 200-yard games, whatever the case may be. He was limited to special teams. So not everybody uses their speed in the right way, is what I want to say. Who would rather play now, injured or? Is she saying, would I rather play an injured Tart over a healthy Hufanga? Is that what she's saying?
Yeah.
Against the Lions, if Tart is hurt, I wouldn't mind sitting him. If he's to get him healthy, because I saw him in the Raiders game, he limped off.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that?
Yeah,
he limped off. So I don't know, what's going on with him if he's fully healthy, but I wouldn't mind putting in Hufanga if they say, well, if Tart's not going to be ready a week, because I mean, it would be stupid to play him if he's not fully healthy, in my opinion, against an opponent like that. Like if we're playing the Packers or Tampa Bay or something, it might be a different story, but yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Melissa.
I agree. If Tart's not 100%, I think this will be a perfect week 1 and week 2 to get Hufanga out there and get him, the practice in normal game setting against, lesser opponents.
Sure.
She said something. Oh, about the baby Palomalu. Yeah, I don't like comps regardless. Like, just let a player play, be themselves. But I know, like, that's the popular thing. Like, who does he compare to? But, I mean, I think it's more, because, where he's from and that Palomalu's training him. And
but same type of hair. And, like they're all, and they're both Polynesian and stuff. So, so I get the comparison. But that's some big shoes to fill. Because Palomalu was the man.
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to put that on anybody, let alone a rookie,
Yeah, I mean, if he's half of what Troy Polamalu was, I'd be happy for him being a 5th-round pick, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like if he just plays to what we've seen, like what he's been doing in just the preseason, I think is more than what I expected that he was going to do this season.
For sure.
I thought maybe he might contribute to special teams, some, but. Now that we're talking about him possibly starting over somebody that's, held that spot down on our team for a while, for years. and never had anybody even coming close to taking that spot from him.
Yeah. And I
when he's
honestly,
healthy, you know.
oh, for sure. And I'm honestly playing him over Tavon Wilson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's how I would do it.
I
But
would have
yeah,
kept Haha over Tavon Wilson, but
oh, you liked him better?
yeah, because
Yeah.
Haha he knows how to get to the ball. He's where the ball is. He gets picks. That's like something that we need so bad back there. He's a
Somebody
veteran. He knows where to be. It's
yeah,
like,
somebody
man,
posted something like I guess looking at the careers, Haha has more INTs than all of our secondary put together.
yeah, like he didn't play at all last year, so it's like, and then he joined us late. So
Yeah.
it's like, how long was he even in our system? It's like, I just think, that's why I was wishing that we could have got him to the practice squad, because it's like, if we, I know that was his option last year and he didn't do it with Dallas for that reason, because he didn't want us to go to the practice squad. But it's like, how long are you really going to have to stay on the practice squad before you get called up? Like, we use our practice squad more than anybody in the league.
It seems like it. But then again, yeah. But then you look at it too, it's like that's kind of a telltale story, because, if he didn't make Dallas's squad last year and declined the practice squad, and he didn't make ours, that might be saying something too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that veteran presence, I think it would be better over Tavon. I agree with you on that. If you're going to keep one of the two, I think Haha would be the better option, because he's still pretty young. He's not really old, but he's still pretty young. But yeah, he does have the capability of grabbing them interceptions. That's what he's known for. So, and that's what this team has lacked. We haven't had a good. I don't remember the last time we had somebody who had close to double-digit sacks double-digit interceptions on our secondary. I think Carlos Rogers, when he was with us that year, when we had a Cowboy and everything, I think he had like 8 or 9 picks, and he made the Pro Bowl. You remember Tony Parrish? And Tony Parrish had like 8 or 9 interceptions too. But since then, I don't remember anybody having a lot of picks like that. It's hard. I don't know why we can't find a good returner or a ball hawk. That's like our issues.
Yeah, I think if Haha would have joined the team, the same time as what's his name, Tavon, I think that maybe he would have had a better chance of winning the spot over him. But he joined so late, and Tavon had been in there playing practically the entire preseason, training camp, and everything.
Or maybe too, when we brought in that Tony Jefferson guy, maybe if we'd have brought in Haha instead of him, he would have had a better chance of making his roster.
Yeah. Guess we'll see what happens though.
Yeah.
If you guys have any other questions, we've gone over all our topics. Thank you guys for all hanging out with us for an hour now. Appreciate all of you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. Thank you for supporting Miriah. Hopefully 6 months from now, your channel is like amazing, and you got more people tuning in. So
yeah.
It's
a grind. We'll get there.
Oh, for sure. I just like that. Before we leave, I like the fact that we talked about this before. There's so many podcasts out there especially for 49ers, but I get certain feelings for certain ones, because like I like even though this is your 3rd episode, I watched your last 2, but with you having a podcast now, and then Nitty Gritty having theirs, like these are going to be my favorites, because I feel like it's always been like that family feel, even like just being on us little small group, even though Nitty Gritty has grown, but I feel like we've all been there for each other. I don't know, I just feel like every time they had a show in the chat room, it was always me, you, Mose, Melissa, like the same people, and it just starts to feel like a family after a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the chat on Nitty Gritty is like the best. Like I always know, like no matter what kind of day I'm having, like what's going on, like Nitty Gritty's on, like I'm there, because I know that I'm gonna be cracking up. Like if I need to talk about something, whatever it is, it's like it is like a family there.
Yeah, it really is. Melissa, who do you like on DL, on the D line? Honestly, my favorite player on the D line is DJ Jones. I love that guy. I love me some DJ Jones. I like his personality. I feel like he's
Yeah, he's funny.
underrated. I love DJ Jones. You know, he brings it too. I mean, we can all say like, you know, sometimes our draft picks are hit and miss, but Kyle and John, you know, they're fifth rounders.
Yeah.
That's their bread and butter. Kittle, DJ Jones. I mean, you look at
Greenlaw.
this year, Greenlaw. You look at this year alone, Lenore, Jalen Moore, and Hufanga. All of them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like we know our fifth rounders. So, and that's what DJ Jones was, I believe. He might have been six, but you know, regardless, regardless, those day 3 picks or would do it for us. But yeah, I mean, if that's what you were asking me, who I like on D line, my favorite player on D line is DJ Jones, probably followed by I don't know. He hasn't been here long, but who I'm really excited for, I would tell you, after he comes back from being suspended, is Jordan Willis. I think he has so much potential. He can be. Oh, you know, no, I'll take that back. I'm really excited for Ebukam.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I think Ebukam is probably, and I said this before, like, you know, with the rotation of guys, I wouldn't be surprised if he leads this team in sacks because he's so quick off the snap, and he was one of those free agents we actually signed to a 2-year deal, not one. Yeah. So they see some potential in him. So
yeah, I'm excited for him, and for Sosa, and then I'm excited that we're gonna have hopefully a healthy Nick Bosa back. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of us ever thought that we'd see D Ford on the field this year. Prior to training camp, I still will believe it when I see it. But I mean, if we can even get, him out there on third downs only,
Yeah. Let me ask you this before we go, because I asked one of my coworkers what he thought. He's a big 49ers fan too. Other than Jimmy, do you think this is D Ford's last year on this team too? Because yes. I think it is. Yeah. Even if he's healthy, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
And then that's going to free up over $40 million. So, okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, we're on the same page with that. Because what he signed, a 5-year deal?
I believe. Was it 4 I think he has 2 years. I don't know. Was it 2 years? Because I think I'm not sure.
Yeah. I think regardless of how he plays, whether it's 10 sacks, 12 sacks, this is his last year. He's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we need to pay other people, so. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for having me on, Miriah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, I appreciate all you guys for hanging out with us. It's been great. Miss Deb, I see you sneaking in here at the end. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you. Melissa, always. Denise, all you guys. Peachy, all the fellas. You guys are awesome. Right. Teran, you've been great. I appreciate you more than you know.
No problem.
It's probably the only time that I'll ever have a 49ers show that both of us are in the same state.
Are you moving pretty soon? Are you thinking about it?
No, but I'm saying no other guests. I don't think any other hosts ever will be from here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I still think hopefully, as shows continue, maybe sometime like week 12, 11 towards the end, we can do a side-by-side since we both live here in Vegas. So
yeah, that'll be awesome. Hopefully, cool. I mean, we'll have you on more often. Everybody seems to love you, so.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Have a good evening.
Have a good night. Stay faithful.